Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Super size straight X. Right, I gotta start that over. Super size straight X Pads presents Wrasslin Raw SummerSlam 95 report.
You better leave that in. Joe Gimateo.
You know what, guys? We're going to throw friendship out the window.
Good.
Because I've got nothing in my life. Nothing other than this podcast.
Man, I loved hearing that line. Fucking throw it out the goddamn window. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. That's right. This is one of our special pay-per-view episodes. So for our new listeners out there, just a brief rundown of the differences. We do not get as in-depth into the matches here because this is not a standard episode of Raw. This is a chunky pay-per-view. So at the end of each match, we will give our personal star ratings. Joe will hit us with what Meltzer thought about these matches. There will be no jobber of the week. And that's about it. We don't really have highlights and lowlights because we discuss, stars during our breakdowns, and we kind of give our overall thoughts about it at the very end, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's a fun time talking about pay-per-view with you guys because just how different it is and how crazy it sometimes gets. And in this case, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about SummerSlam 1995. SummerSlam 95 aired on August 27th, 1995. And was recorded at the Civic Arena, the Igloo, in Pittsburgh, PA, our home region, we'll say. We're not from Pittsburgh, we're from slightly north, but we've all been to the Civic Arena, I think it's fair to say, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we were there together when we almost died on our way to the final Pantera concert.
Yeah, yep, that's right. Oh, I forgot that was at the Civic Arena. You're right. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The three of us almost died on our way to the Civic Arena to catch some great metal.
Goddamn snowstorm.
Bonding. Well, this is going to feature Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, and Doc Hendricks on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right, then. Let's get into it. For our intro, who the hell was trying to do that Vince McMahon impersonation? Was that Petting Zoo?
I think it was. That was what I have wrote down, is that it sounds like Petting Zoo doing his best Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I have who is doing this. It doesn't really sound like Todd.
We'll just say the poor man's Vince McMahon. How's that?
Yeah,
Sure.
That sounds good.
Okay. There's a lot of poor man's versions in this, if I remember correctly, since my viewing yesterday. But man, they are really serious about this dentist extracting revenge angle. They're giving Isaac Yankem a very serious treatment here when he deserves anything but. But overall, there's a great little intro into all of this, and of course it was great to hear, "Welcome everyone to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." Face the Heat is the tagline for SummerSlam 95. I'm surprised that this is the first time we're hearing it. At least that's the first time I remember hearing it. Did you guys hear that before this?
If it was the tagline, it would have been drilled into our head by Petting Zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
I know we heard the typical hottest night of the summer line quite a bit, but yeah.
I almost wonder if it was like a last-minute throw-in for Stridex, Stridex face the Heat, maybe? I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe.
Also, yes, Dean Douglas will be here with everybody, coming from his satellite classroom to critique matches. And before you know it, there's the sound of nails on a chalkboard. There was, virtually no lead into this. I reflexively ripped the headphones from my head. Dean Douglas is now trying to go full in on having a personality. And that personality is exaggerated heel, apparently. Rather than giving the dry, monotone delivery, he is laughing and smiling about everything. It seems like everybody realized that was just not working, so they called an audible and told him, hey, do something different, anything. Thankfully, though, that doesn't last long, and we go into our first match of the evening. Hakushi defeats the 1-2-3 Kid by pinfall in 9 minutes and 28 seconds. The most exciting thing about the Hakushi entrance was finding out that Barry Horowitz got another win on the Action Zone. So there's that, at least. My first question in this is, where was Shinja? That would have been kind of nice to see. I mean, hey man, whatever. We got to see Harvey Whippleman with Bertha Faye later on. They could have ponied up for,
I could only guess that, kind of what happens a little bit later, not in this match, maybe Shinja is going to fall to the wayside.
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. I took it to mean that this was maybe going to be a clean match, and I was happy about that. Because, interference is good whenever it is appropriate for the story, but having interference for the sake of interference pisses me off more often than not.
And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with my idea from later on.
Yeah. Well, in the match, the opening series was great. And I have to say, at this point during this match, I thought that this was a genius pick as a first match because it felt like the perfect matchup to warm the crowd up. It felt like it was going to be high energy. It felt like it was going to be tight and snug. And, the timing of both competitors was pretty spot on there at the beginning, matching kip-ups and tie-ups and speed. And things kind of started to go a little bit downhill at about the same time that Vince called the event SummerSlime. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, things started to slow down right about there. And, where the Kid was setting up the comeback, the moves still looked good. The pacing started to get off. And that kind of just perpetuated and snowballed. Whenever they could hit things and keep things smooth and tight, it looked great. But the pacing just got a little more off and off as the match went on. At one point, Vince said that the referee was going to have to call the match because of the vicious kicks, and that was just absolutely ridiculous because there was nothing serious enough in this match going on to warrant the referee calling it. Hakushi was putting in some pretty good kicks to the Kid. Whenever he put the Kid out of the ring, that looked great, and so did the cartwheeling suicide dive out onto the Kid. And when the Kid attempts a flying kick and Hakushi reverses it into almost like I don't even know what to call it. It's almost like a pump handle slam type maneuver for the pin and the 3 count. That was probably the best spot of this match for me. And even with all of that being said, I have to admit that I think maybe I built this up in my head too much. So even though I did feel disappointed in this match, I'm realistic enough to believe that that's a good chunk of that is my fault for building this up too much and having too big of a hype for it in my own head. But you know what? I think booking has a much bigger fault in this, however. The build up to the comeback was too long in this match. The multiple attempts at comebacks were lame and fizzled out. And even though I started out thinking that the Kid beating Hakushi would be a great way to start this pay-per-view, I ended up being wrong. These are two superstars that didn't have an ongoing feud. There was nothing to lose with having the Kid win, and the Kid could have had a great comeback for the crowd to get the crowd hyped, but he didn't. And because of that, this was an underwhelming match, and I ended up giving it 1 star. Joe, what did you think of our opener?
Well, I think you and I are on opposite ends here. I enjoyed the match. I did think this was a good match to start the event. And I thought that the Pittsburgh crowd was a little bit interesting to me. And this was where it sort of started, was because they were kind of cheering Hakushi's moves.
Sometimes it's hard not to.
He did that tiger moonsault thing again outside, and they went crazy for that. He did a little bit of a Bronco Buster, which was interesting.
Yeah.
On the Kid, and they liked that as well. The Kid's frog splash was one of the safest frog splashes I've ever seen. I mean, he barely hit Hakushi when he came down. But yeah, I liked this match. I think that it was a little sloppy and slow at times, but they gave us some nice, exciting moves at times as well. So I gave it 3 stars.
I'm going to be right along with Joe here. I thought this was a pretty great way to start off SummerSlam. It wasn't the best match in the world, but a good way to start off a pay-per-view. Right from the get-go, we get that beautiful-looking guy with that tiny American flag and the long hair and sunglasses. I don't know what the hell that guy's deal was, but he was really odd-looking. You talked about watching Hakushi's entrance, and most of the time we don't see his full entrance. And seeing it here, I think really highlighted the fact that it was supposed to be the opposite of The Undertaker. It was really, really clear seeing it here, right down to the end where he's kneeling in the ring under the white light and, But after that, it was definitely better timing at the beginning, like you were saying with like the kick-ups and, things like that. I mean, they were perfectly timed at the beginning, and they did start to get a little bit off as the match went on, but Hakushi just kept on landing, great move after great move. He did his fucking crazy 5-finger flying exploding heart tiger technique or whatever the fuck it's called. And that looked great. And like you said, Joe, this Pittsburgh crowd went crazy for it like they did before. He followed that up with a really good looking flying headbutt. I was very surprised at the ending though. Going into this, I thought for sure the kid was going to win. But Hakushi just grabs him and slams him down. And to be honest, I was surprised that he got the pinfall off of that. It wasn't even his normal finisher or anything. So I wasn't exactly crazy about the ending. And kind of like Hakushi's first match with Bret Hart, I think that this match is not as good as they could do. So if they would have had maybe a second match, this could be a 4 or maybe 5-star match. But I thought it was a solid 3-star match.
Okay. Well, I can certainly understand it because like I said in my breakdown there, I do take responsibility for building it up in my head too much. It's just that about halfway through where it seems like maybe communication starts to break down between the two of them. And that really wasn't even a huge deal for me. God damn it, I wanted the kid to win. I just felt like that would be the best way to pump up the crowd and just have everybody on a high note going into this. You know what I mean? All right. Well, Joe, what did Meltzer think about this match?
The Observer, Dave Meltzer, he gave this 3.25 stars. He didn't note much other than there was fast action early and most of it was well executed.
All right. Well, what was not well executed was this transition to Doc Hendricks. Well, it's Doc Hendricks now with a promo from Mabel. Once again, another decent promo from Mabel, I thought. When asked, he refuses to lay out the royal plan for what's going to happen tonight, merely saying that the British Bulldog's heel turn was not the end of it. And we'll cut Doc Hendricks off, though, so we can go to our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeats Bob Holly by pinfall in 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Hunter was great, just walking down to the ring, disgusted by the people of Pittsburgh. I don't know if it's because we have such a longer entryway here. This is Hunter's, correct me if I'm wrong, this is Hunter's first pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
And first non-jobber match, right?
Yes. Yeah, with the longer entrance and his ability to just kind of saunter on down and milk it and look at people and dismiss them. It was great. Vince tells us that Hunter is undefeated going into this, and I didn't realize that at the time. That's a pretty cool little factoid going into this match. And then we get Bob Holly. Man, I love Bob Holly as a worker, but I am so fucking over the racer gimmick. It just, I love Hunter's constant dismissive flicking of the wrist. God, it's just so waspish and hoity-toity. I fucking love it. The work here in the match, great. And up until this point, it's been great so far. It's weird that, to me at least, that Hunter was so blatantly calling spots in the corner. I mean, it was crystal clear. He was practically burying that big old schnoz in Bob Holly's ear and speaking to him every time they're in the corner. But, by God, let's talk about that first whip to the corner. I literally sat up straight in my seat and said, "God damn," out loud. The announcers like to exaggerate and say the ring moved, but I'm pretty damn sure that the whole ring fucking moved a good foot or two with this. The way that Hunter and Bob worked this was fantastic. And as a matter of fact, I had to back it up and rewatch it. It is not often that I rewind and rewatch, but I did it for this. Trading abdominal stretches was clever, going back and forth from abdominal stretch to abdominal stretch. Ordinarily, that's a really dull thing, but these two did the reversal into another stretch really well. But then it really additionally paid off with Hunter giving Bob Holly a hip toss over the top rope and to the outside. Probably the most creative use of a hip toss I've seen since it was used as a body slam. And as things progress, the dynamic kind of slows down a bit again. There are a couple stutter steps where it feels like communication had maybe faltered a little bit, but the final reversal into the pedigree was also just a touch sloppy, but it looked the way a devastating finisher ought to look. Bob Holly sold the shit out of this pedigree, and we got the 3 count as a result. This was a surprise match for me. I didn't remember that we were going to have it on the card. Whenever I started watching this pay-per-view, I couldn't remember if we had it in one of our SummerSlam Stridex Insider reports, because there was just so much quality information in those. This match had its share of great spots. It had a few low spots too, but overall, I did not come out of this match disappointed. I'm going with a very, very solid 2 stars for this. Ryan, what did you think?
You know, we haven't seen Bob Sparkplug Holly in quite some time, so I was glad to see him here, but like you, I am completely done with this dumb, lame gimmick. You know, he's a good ring worker, so I once you get past his stupid entrance and Vince rambling on about race cars and whatever, it's fun to watch him. And like you said as well, Hunter's entrance and just his waving off people in the crowd, it's great. He's a born heel.
Yes.
And I also loved the King saying Bob Holly is the kind of guy that would spend his honeymoon at a monster truck rally. What a perfect example of this stupid gimmick. That whip, there was no way to miss that. That Irish whip into the turnbuckle was something else. I have noted, like you, ring-moving fucking impact here.
Earth-shattering.
Yeah. You know, one thing I was a little bit disappointed about was that they kind of treated it like a jobber match towards the beginning and decided to go split screen and show us the entrance of Bulldog coming into the arena. Can we please focus on the match, please? This is a fucking pay-per-view event. The abdominal stretches going back and forth, I rolled my eyes at that a bit. Then, like you said, the reversal that Hunter gets, I couldn't really put my finger on what looked wrong about it, but there was just something off. I'm not sure what it was. It was probably just timing. We don't get to see Hunter against, well, we haven't up until this point seen him against anyone but a jobber. So it was good to see his selling ability in this match, and he does a really good job at that when Holly was taking over. I thought, again, just like last match, I was surprised by when the ending happened. It didn't seem like it should have happened this quick. And, you know, I wasn't real crazy about the ending. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Bartlett. I gave it a solid 2 stars. I was leaning to a 3, but the ending kind of pushed it down for me and made it a 2-star.
Yeah, Helmsley is disgusted by these yinzers in the crowd here. You know, I do enjoy the gimmick right now, but I'm also looking forward to kind of seeing how he transitions to shed that blue blood snob gimmick as well. And Bob Holly, I agree with you guys. The gimmick is really holding him back. And I think that he definitely peaked when he was in that tag team with 1-2-3 Kid, you know, during this gimmick. And that's kind of a shame. But, you know, he had a solid match here with Helmsley. And again, another note about this Pittsburgh crowd, they popped for the reversal into the pedigree. So they're kind of leaning towards the heels right now, which is crazy. And I agree with you guys. I gave it 2 stars. I think there was nothing spectacular or surprising, but it was nice to see Helmsley get his first pay-per-view match, and I'm glad it was a win for him. He also got his own little spotlight logo in the ring. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm sensing maybe a push here soon. But Dave Meltzer gave this 1 3/4 stars and didn't really note much other than just a recap of the match.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I think the best adjective for this match was that it was a very, very competent match all around. And you know, guys, this next segment, I couldn't wait to just briefly talk about it with you. Let's take a look at the War on the Water. And It took place on the Gateway Clipper. Just briefly, will one of you, I don't care which, please explain to our listening audience what the Gateway Clipper is?
Sure. The Gateway Clipper is a river paddle boat. It takes people for rides around what is called the Point in Pittsburgh. It's where two rivers come together and form a third, bigger river. This boat, though, again, like the thing from earlier, holds a special place in our heart because in 6th grade, we took a field trip and we all got to ride on this wonderful paddle boat.
Yep, good times were had by all. The Gateway Clipper, just from anybody that went to our school, the Gateway Clipper is just a very, very special place. It was one of those great field trips where you got to go out and do something truly unique instead of the usual bullshit that they make you do in elementary school. Well, what this event amounted to was WWF superstars having a tug of war with Pittsburgh City firefighters. Of course, the superstars won, and it ends with a view of firefighters jumping into the waters of the river. They didn't say which one, but going off of their position in relation to Three Rivers Stadium, it looked like they were in the Allegheny, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, just real quick question. Who here, show of hands, would be willing to jump into the Allegheny River in Pittsburgh if it were summertime?
To let you know, my hand is down.
Yeah. I didn't think so. Whenever I was watching this, I know this was like 25 years ago, but things weren't that much better back then. I
think they were worse back then.
Probably, yeah.
That was when they were still around the end of all of the river cleanups from all the damage the steel mills did to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a damn miracle that one of them didn't wind up impaled on a shard of rusty steel.
If you've ever drank Iron City beer, you've had a little bit of the Allegheny in your mouth.
True enough. Well, that nice little aside, I was genuinely tickled by that. That will bring us into our next match. The Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart, defeat the Blue Brothers, Jacob and Eli, by pinfall in 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Holy shit, it's the Blue Brothers. You know, we heard about them in the SummerSlam reports leading up to this, but when was the last time we saw them in the ring?
Months and months ago.
Yeah, and I tell you what, in the course of those months and months, those SS tattoos have just gotten even more clearly visible, even through the attempted cover-up. Now that I know what to look for, it is blatantly obvious that these guys have covered up SS tattoos.
It is clear as the sun.
Yeah. Well, once again, I'm reminded of just how good of a tag team the Smoking Guns are. Vince tells us that you'd have to be a computer whiz to keep track of which twin is in the ring, so that begs the question, Ryan, were you able to keep track of which twin was in the ring at any given time?
No, Vince was incorrect. Even a computer whiz would not be able to.
Okay, good to know. And here we are. Those were my only notes on this match. The Guns hit their great finisher, and we get the 3 count. So I was fully interested in watching this match. This match did not bore me. It did not feel tedious in any way at all. It's just that, unfortunately, there weren't many spots or any real big examples of storytelling in the ring that were noteworthy to me. The only noteworthy aspect of it being that there were 0 negatives about this match. So for me, this match clocks in at a solid 2 stars. Joseph, what'd you think?
Well, this match to me had no business being on the card. I don't know why it's there.
Ooh.
It's a Raw match.
Yeah.
It does nothing for anybody other than just reminding us that the Guns are a good team.
And that the Blue Brothers exist, I guess.
The Blue Brothers are not good. I don't know if they're baby faces or heels. Vince is too obsessed with the twin gimmick for me to even care about them at all. So he kind of ruins it for me. I'm giving this 1 star just because this was just, I don't know. It did nothing to boost the event at all.
Yeah.
My very first thing I have is just, where the hell have the Blue Brothers been? They're supposed to be an actual tag team, but they have been non-existent for months and months. I'm kind of with you, Bartlett. I had very, very little written down about this match, and it wasn't that I wasn't interested in what was going on. It was, again, a competent match, but very forgettable. Part of that could be that there was zero buildup for this match. I mean, maybe with a little bit, even if the Blue Brothers would have shown up the last week or two on Raw and did something. You know what I mean?
They would have just shown up anywhere at all.
Right. If this match wouldn't have been just out of the blue, maybe it could have been a little bit better. Yeah, the Smoking Guns land their great-looking finisher. It was just a by-the-book tag team match with a lack of buildup. I gave it 2-star though, because it was, I didn't think it was nearly as good as the Hunter match, but since we don't give halves here, it was solid.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something that ends up going on throughout this entire pay-per-view is there were a couple times where I thought that it might be handy to do fractional stars. We're not going to do that, but there were some that might have called for it here.
Well, speaking of fractional stars, Dave Meltzer gave it 1.25 stars, and he gave it the Wrasslin Raw Sir Mo statement here. He said they worked hard, but the four did not work well together. So they tried.
They tried.
Yeah, they tried. Hey, that's all you can ask for. All we provide is an opportunity. All right. Well, guys, let's get whimsical here. Let's just lean back and sip your drink, and let's take a trip down memory lane and relive the story of Barry Horowitz. Petting Zoo calls Horowitz a WWF journeyman, which I thought was an extremely polite way to say jobber, and I have to admit, this kind of endeared me even more to Horowitz.
I thought it was a perfect word for him.
I dare say I'll never call Horowitz a jobber again. He will forever be a journeyman to me, if not the prince of jobbers. I'm right in that? I'm remembering my hierarchy of jobbers?
No, he's the king.
He's the king. Who was the prince?
We haven't named a prince yet, I don't believe.
Okay.
Although I do have someone in mind. We just haven't done him yet.
But the brawler is the Duke, right?
Duke, correct.
Okay. Well, we get the on-screen graphic, and tonight, Kyle's cousin Kyle will be stridexing out that unruly imperfection that is the Body Donnas. And that is a reference to this ridiculous screen graphic for Barry Horowitz of him wearing a button-down shirt and pocket protector. Oh my God. Well, okay, let's go into our next match. Barry Horowitz defeats Skip of the Body Donnas with Sonny by pinfall in 11 minutes and 21 seconds. Barry Horowitz comes out to fucking Hava Nagila. What the hell is my first note?
Were you a dentist ever in your life? Well, I'm Jewish. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right, we'll use that.
My goodness. I won't even get into that. So, during the course of the match, Sonny tries to throw the towel in. Hebner grabs it and gets in her face, and we get a nice camera close-up of this. Hebner tells her that this is not boxing, this is wrestling, and to get out of the ring. Throwing in a towel to end the match, that doesn't work here. The irony is thick on that for me. Back to notes on the match here. I continue to be a fan of Skip's wrestling, just Chris Candido in general. I'll never not be a fan of Candido. Somebody in the crowd has a sign that says, "Horowitz wins! Horowitz wins! Horowitz wins!" I was very happy to see that because Vince made sure to say that exactly the same way. And it really did my heart some good to hear the crowd chanting for Barry. Both men with the double drop kick. That was interesting to me. I'm not saying that I dislike it or like it, but I was interested by that. I'm not sure if that was planned or
Devastating.
What,
Devastating.
Yeah. Another note here on Horowitz. Horowitz is great at selling exhausted. A lot of guys like to, I consider it cheap out and sell an injury. I think that selling being exhausted is a much harder sell, but Horowitz does it fantastically. The arrival of Hakushi now, and this is what we were referencing earlier. Hakushi shows up, and his arrival gives me a little pit of dread in my stomach. And I have to say that dread is justified as Hakushi distracts just enough. Now, this was distraction. No contact was made here, for the record. He distracts just enough for Horowitz to roll Skip up into the pin and the 3 count. The finish killed this for me. The in-ring work was good. I felt that Horowitz really sold the underdog in this, and likewise with Skip selling the arrogant bully. But man, I craved a clean pay-per-view win for Horowitz. I really, really wanted a clean win for him, and because I didn't get that, this match gets bumped down to 1 star for me. Ryan, where are you at with this match?
I enjoyed it. Both of these guys worked really well together. Barry Horowitz coming out to the Jewish song was absurd, but I don't know if you guys, again, remember back when I did him for Jobber of the Week, before they decided on the Poindexter gimmick, they briefly tried Jewish gimmick. He came out, I think, at some Superstars with the Star of David on his ass even.
Okay.
So at least that didn't happen here.
Yeah.
Like you said, he sells that exhaustion really good, and he's just a good ring worker. And just so happy for Barry and that he's getting this push here because he shouldn't be called a jobber. You know, he's a journeyman, and he has proved that time and time again. Skip looked good too. Some of those suplexes that he was nailing off the top rope and some of the other high-risk maneuvers he was doing, I thought this was a very entertaining match. And then came the Hakushi thing, and like you, Bartlett, I was very worried. But unlike you, I didn't mind it because he didn't actually interrupt anyone.
Yeah.
It was like he came up there and he flipped over everyone, which distracted both guys. He didn't just distract Skip. You know what I mean? He didn't hit Skip. He just rolls out of the ring, and Barry gets the pinfall because he reacted quicker to this interruption. So the thing I was bringing up earlier about Hakushi, though, is he turning babyface? Because he came out here and kind of helped out the fan favorite here. He seemed to have dropped his heel manager. So I'm not sure. You know, it seemed to me that maybe he's making a babyface turn.
I understood that to be that on, I think it was Superstars, or maybe it was Action Zone, but Skip had cost Hakushi a victory against Horowitz on some previous show. So I think that this was just simple revenge. Simple revenge.
Even still, though, it's simple revenge, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to be acting as heelish as he was, just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But because of this really not affecting me as much as it did to you, I ended up giving it a 3-star.
Well, I knew I would be in the minority here, and I will announce that I hate all of it.
Oh.
I hate the whole thing. I hate the whole thing. Mostly because I am made aware after this that this is the 3rd time that Horowitz beat Skip. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
So I hate that. I hate that they're never like really a true win.
Yes.
So I'm kind of in between there. But it's to me, it's just gone on too long. Like maybe they could have done something one time and then say, all right, well, we'll fight at SummerSlam and then give Horowitz the win maybe. But like, I don't know. I feel like it's gone on too long. And now you're throwing Hakushi into it. Like, I don't like it. And I think that at a time where you need some good heels, it's kind of burying Skip. Once again, I'll say that. So I'm giving it a dud just because I hate it so much. I didn't think it was a bad match, but I hate the booking, and I know that I'm in the minority when I say that. Meltzer gives it 3 stars. He says it was very entertaining and well-booked segment. The wrestling was good as well. So, and also the Sonny gimmick with the towel. So that was a spoof on the Tyson McNeely fight because McNeely, like his manager, wanted to throw in the towel, and I don't know if he did or not, but that was kind of a spoof on that.
I see.
But also with Sonny, here's another thing too. Sonny is like, she's still outshining Skip for me. Like she's just too good looking. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but she's just too much of a distraction that she's kind of outshining Skip for me.
Shawn Michaels agrees.
Yes.
It doesn't help that they take every opportunity to get a close-up of her screaming into the
To
camera.
show her ass, yeah.
And showing her ass, yes. But let's go to Dean Douglas for a critique on this. Dean Douglas has gotten even more boisterous. This is just going off the rails. Obviously, Douglas dislikes Horowitz, but the change in character for him is just so off-putting.
Is this Joe giving the report here?
Now, Petting Zoo backstage with Shawn Michaels. Shawn cuts a pretty great promo here about the ladder match later on tonight. Petting Zoo is very satisfied with the fact that he was present for that. But we can't ride that high forever because we have to go to our next match. Bertha Faye with Harvey Whippleman defeats Alundra Blaze by pinfall to win the WWF Women's Championship in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Did you guys listen to that entrance music? It was an Eagles knockoff with some really fucked up lyrics about Bertha Faye in it.
Have you ever, okay, go, I don't,
Bertha!
yes, it is. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but listening to those lyrics, holy shit. It was like a Take It to the Limit knockoff.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like 3 notes off of Take It to the Limit. Oh, my God. That was probably the most entertaining thing about all of this.
Definitely was.
In contrast, Alundra Blaze's music was pretty bitching. The pyro wasn't. The pyro they cheaped out on, but Blaze's music, pretty fucking cool for her. And I am almost immediately sad about this match. You know, seeing Alundra come out because she is such a great wrestler. And I went into this with low expectations.
Did you catch the announcement for her? The ring announcer was not
Calling
the
her
Fink.
a man?
Yeah, he weighs 140 pounds. And then Vince is like, oh, that's a she.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is all just like, that's typical for what's going to happen here. It's just, it's one blunder in a string of blunders that is this match. From commentary, this was the first time that I had ever heard about Alundra having martial arts skills. I'm not trying to take away from Alundra Blaze in the least bit, but I've never really heard her referred to as having martial arts skills, and I wonder if that's just Vince trying to put the shine on her a little bit here. Bertha wasn't selling shit for Alundra, and the way that she was attempting to make it a spectacle instead of a wrestling match just pissed me the fuck off. Alundra tried so hard. God damn it, she tried. She got the old mo going. But these two are so mismatched in styles and ability. Did you guys notice the spot? This is right after Alundra chases Harvey Whippleman around the ring and takes his jacket. Alundra then gets back into the ring and tries to first suplex and then do a crucifix takedown on Bertha.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Bertha doesn't work either of them. What a fucking shithead she is. Fuck Bertha Faye for that. At least make it seem like it's an effort to refuse those takedowns. God damn it. The more this match went on, the more it pissed me off until it was finally over. But no, I was wrong. It gets worse because the first and only time we trot out Jim Ross is to interview Bertha and Harvey Whippleman in the entryway. How many careers are we attempting to ruin with this fucking match?
And
Jim Ross didn't make it.
I was going to say, they realized really quick how bad it was, and they cut to that Undertaker video.
Yes. So I hated every minute of this. It was a dud. I have nothing else to say about it. Joe, thoughts, please.
Yeah, it's a dud. I don't know how you can not give it a dud. To me, this is just as bad, if not worse, than Mabel pinning The Undertaker at King of the Ring. I mean, this is just not believable in any sense. You know, I'm kind of 50-50 after reading a little bit in The Observer and kind of understanding Bertha Faye. I'm kind of 50-50 with like blaming her and blaming Vince and Bruce and whoever decided to put this comic relief act into it.
That is fair.
Because apparently she was like, in Japan, she was like a power move wrestler. And if you guys remember, when she first came out, she kind of looked like that, you know, the scary...
Yeah, she was the biker-looking chick.
Yeah, and then someone was like, oh no, let's make this comic relief, pal. And then it turned into this, so dud.
Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was watching, to be honest with you. Right from the get-go, Bertha Faye botches a few hits, and then she tries, like Mabel, to hit an enziguri that just looks piss poor.
Yeah.
You know, and then she can't sell either. Alundra Blaze tries for just a simple leg sweep, and Bertha can't sell it. Then Faye takes over and does a series of belly bumps to fucking Alundra. Like, you just fucking comic. This is a goddamn comic match. I did not get what they were trying to do here. Did Alundra Blaze already put in her time to go to WCW? Was this just to humiliate her? That crucifix, that fucking crucifix.
Yeah.
Bertha just stands there as Alundra Blaze ends up falling off of her back because she just refuses to sell anything. And then, bizarrely, Bertha Faye gets the pinfall. What the fuck did I just watch? I mean, wow, was this bad? I mean, this is the definition of a dud match.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Meltzer gives it a dud as well. I'm surprised he didn't go negative on this one, but
yeah, really.
He said this feud is death, and they tried. They did the Sermo try, but
Bertha Faye didn't.
No.
But Bertha Faye is awful. Those were the quotes there.
Yeah. We've mentioned it in the past, and I will just reiterate it here one more time. 1 year ago, SummerSlam 94, we had a match of the year candidate between Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano, and this is where we're at 1 year later.
Thank you, 95.
God damn it. All right, let's move it to the next segment. We've got a petting zoo voiceover video package. This is going to give us the complete history of The Undertaker and Kama's feud. Tonight, one man meets his taker. Then we're treated to Paul Bearer hitting us with a Coliseum home video commercial. but really, that's a setup for The Undertaker to cut a bitchin' promo on Kama. This is probably the most The Undertaker has said in one promo in at least a few months, and this was good shit, pal.
It needs to be mentioned, when he does promos, even if they're short, long, whatever, he never flubs a line or mispronounces or, I mean, just a fucking professional.
Yeah. That is going to take us into our next match. The Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeats Kama with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, in a casket match in 16 minutes and 26 seconds. I loved the pop for The Undertaker. The crowd feeling it made me feel it, and I was excited going into this. I especially felt that one fan that threw trash at Kama before the bell even rung. I saw that happen, and I said, yes, this is a Pittsburgh show. It kind of feels like it. I loved hearing Paul Bearer say to the ref, "Can't you see he's using his fists? He can't use his fists." Did either of you guys catch that?
No.
Oh, come on. Oh, my God. That was great. Yeah, he was Paul Bearer beseeching the referee about rules. It was great. Well, after about a third of the way into the match, here, the way they've used the casket so far, I'm kind of starting to wonder at this point if the casket gimmick was really needed here. The casket isn't even custom made. It's just a generic rest in peace casket that they kind of seems like they rolled out. It wasn't double wide or double deep or anything, but it had like airbrush graphics on the top of it, like a monster truck. Okay, so case in point, The Undertaker gets knocked through the ropes onto the casket, but the refs hadn't opened it, or else Taker would have went in. Commentary notes that fact for us. As the match progresses, we learn that, I guess, there's a gesture that the guys have to make for the refs to open up the lid. That would have been nice going into it, but then again, we didn't really know this was a casket match until the last minute. I absolutely loved Paul Bearer taking the jacket off and going after DiBiase. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You could see that the man that is Paul Bearer is a former wrestler in that, because as big as he is, he wasn't slow. He fucking moved.
You were seeing some Percy Pringle in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, later on, Kama slams Undertaker onto the casket, but then acts frustrated when he can't open the lid while Taker is laying on it. Just these little things that come up during the match that just kind of bother me. The fans, though, the fans do love it. The fans were popping their asses off throughout this match. Kama gets in there and attempts a pin in the middle of the ring. That was a head scratcher for me, because what the fuck, this is a casket match. At least the sleeper hold that he goes to put on after that makes some sense, because you could theoretically, knock the Taker out and roll him into the casket. I did not care for both men going into the casket, especially when the casket starts to fall apart. But I did like the visual of The Undertaker dragging Kama back into it when Kama is trying to crawl out. That was just fucking cool to see. The camera angle on that was perfect. And the tombstone for the finish looked good. I felt that this match didn't live up to the hype I gave it. Again, this is my bad, so I'm not putting this on anybody but me. This was especially in terms of the casket match gimmick. I'm not sure that not having the casket would have made this any better, but at the same time, the work in the ring was solid. I can't take anything away from the work that these two fucking professionals put in. For those reasons, I'm going with what I feel is a solid 2 stars. Ryan, you're our asshole to The Undertaker. Please go first on this.
Right out of the hole, Vince brings up the chill that he felt going down his spine. And I just mentioned during our Christmas show that I still get this chill as a grown-ass man when The Undertaker comes out. And I was tickled pink to hear Vince mention it. It starts off, and this was, just good work between two powerhouse guys. The Undertaker does a great spot where he picks Kama up by the throat with both hands and, holds him up in the air for a little bit. I think the biggest thing that I got out of this match is it's really nice to see someone the size of Kama go up against The Undertaker. It's not often that we have someone who is an actual good wrestler. So sure, we had Giant Gonzalez and Yoko, but here's a guy who can actually walk at a brisk pace and wrestle. And and it looks good. This is what the Taker needs, because since he's turned to babyface, it's hard to tell a story against a smaller person. To get a babyface over, the easiest way is to put him up against someone that looks like a threat. So I thought that, this was good booking for that. I had to say how much I loved Paul Bearer ripping off his jacket and going after Ted DiBiase. That was beautiful. And then, some good belly-to-belly suplexes. And I kind of agree that the casket wasn't really necessary here. It wasn't, I didn't think it really hindered the match, but it wasn't necessary. I know it was a bit corny, but I loved the spot where they both go in the casket and Kama's trying to crawl out and The Undertaker grabs his leg and pulls him back in. I mean, straight movie shit, but I don't care. I loved it. And then he nails a great looking chokeslam, tombstone, puts him in the casket, gets the win. The crowd goes fucking crazy. This wasn't a 5-star match by any means, but I was really entertained, and so was the crowd. And I thought it was another 3-star match. It's kind of a common score I'm giving out tonight.
Yeah, a couple things worth noting here that I read about was that this is only the 3rd opponent that Undertaker has faced in a casket match. He faced Kamala and then Yokozuna twice, and then now Kama. And the other thing I noted here is that these guys took this shit on the road and did like more than 20 casket matches on the road prior to this. So I thought that was pretty cool to read about. As far as the match goes, I think that for me, I wasn't excited about the fact that this was a casket match. They didn't do anything. I know it was sort of a last minute thing, but if you're taking it on the road, you kind of know. They didn't really do anything. They didn't even have Paul Bearer wheel the casket down. They just had it there at ringside.
Well, like those promos leading up to the Yoko one are what made that feud.
Yeah.
And Kama, to me, I agree with you, Ryan. It's nice to see someone more athletic in there in a casket match. But Kama doesn't really have the heat that Yokozuna had either. So it's just not quite as exciting. But I gave this 3 stars as well because I just loved Undertaker and Paul Bearer. Again, I can't say it enough. These guys are just such professionals. They know what they're doing. They earn their pay every night. The crowd loves it. This could have been against fucking Dwayne Gill or Roy Raymond, and this crowd would have reacted the same way. Like, they love it. Meltzer gave this 2 stars. He said this was much better than Undertaker's pay-per-view matches of the last few years, but it still went on too long and dragged. So he wasn't too thrilled with it, but he gave it 2 stars.
Well, it is what it is, but Joseph really well said towards the end there. Professionals, truly professionals. I completely agree with that.
And Paul Bearer is a presence, and Ted DiBiase is not, you know? So
yeah.
That's always great.
Great point there, too. Well, Vince and the King are pretty excited for the next match. That match being Bret Hart versus Isaac Yankem, DDS. Hey, let's have a video package on that. The background music on this video is pretty off-putting, as is the humorous tone voiceover from Petting Zoo to narrate the complete history between the Hitman and this demented tooth fairy. Ugh. The King gets in the ring to make the introductions, the house PA system blaring the sound of a dental drill. God damn it. And we go into our next match. Bret Hart defeats Isaac Yankem by disqualification in 16 minutes and 8 seconds. I really hated the sound of those drills, man. This gets back to that discussion we had before about, what makes heat, but God, I hated it. You know what, first though, before we even do this, let's go backstage to get a promo from Bret Hart with Todd Pettingzoo, who invites Lawler, this is Bret Hart, Bret Hart invites Lawler to send a chiropractor, a dentist, or whatever. He makes a great point in that maybe the King should just send a fucking wrestler instead of a gimmick. That's my take on it, not what Bret Hart says, but hopefully this marks the end of this feud between the Hitman and Lawler, because I can't stand them wasting fucking Bret Hart like this. At least that's how I feel in terms of booking and storytelling, not wrestling, but we'll get there. It feels like I haven't seen Bret Hart wrestle in forever going into this. I want to say the last time was probably a pay-per-view, wasn't it?
I think it was
In Your Houses?
Yeah, I think it was last In Your House.
Yeah. In the match, Bret Hart and Isaac Yankem, these two work really well together. I have to say that I am pleasantly surprised at that. I had assumed Yankem would be a little bit green for working with one of the best that ever entered a ring, but he held his own through this. That spot where Yankem dropped Bret onto the top rope looked a little rough, like it could have hit a joint badly. This is where the top rope went up under Bret's elbow and shoulder. A little rough looking. But then that whip into the corner, once again, god damn, moved the ring. I think Owen might have taught these guys how to do that. And from Vince, 1, 2, it's over. It's not over yet. This was the theme for Vince throughout this match. Of course, commentary had to spend some time talking about the Kiss My Foot match in detail, on top of the false finishes, or I should say the false finishes from commentary, not in the ring. The longer this match went on, though, the less I cared about the outcome. And I went into it not caring a whole lot to begin with. I was mostly excited to see Kane, or I should say Glenn Jacobs, in this proto form, wrestling one of the greatest, Bret Hart. I didn't care about the dentist thing. And as time went on, I cared even less. Once again, Vince, 1, 2, and yes! No. Vince calling finishes in this match constantly, extremely irritating. Once Lawler comes out from behind the announce table, all I can see is his horrible haircut that makes him look like a poor man's honky-tonk man, which is poor indeed. And once again, Bret Hart hogties his opponent in the corner. This is like his match with Diesel from WrestleMania. He gets no penalty from the referee for doing so. This is going to play into it later. Things go bananas as Lawler gets involved in the match for real. Lawler is trading dukes with the Hitman. The referee is aware of this. Lawler ends up literally holding Bret by the hair over the edge of the ring while Isaac Yankem Bronco busts him from behind, and this is still okay as far as the ref is concerned. Finally, though, the line is crossed when they tie the Hitman's head in the ropes, seemingly strangling him. And, all other shit aside, I have to admit that the image of this was a great image. It legit looked like the Hitman was being strangled. Until I remembered that this was kayfabe, I was a little bit concerned, but this is where we get the disqualification. All in all, this match started off really well for me, but as time went on, it failed to build up my engagement and just gradually lost me. Much is made on commentary about the blatant disqualification, but that's ignoring the half-dozen DQ-worthy things that happened leading up to it. And once again, I felt that the finish here was just wrong. I blame this all on storytelling, but the booking that dictated the storytelling I felt was just the shits. I'm going with 1 star on this. Joseph, what did you think?
Well, now we have 2 legend Hall of Famers making their pay-per-view debuts. We got Hunter Hearst Helmsley earlier. Now we have Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah.
I think Glenn Jacobs was rumored to be one of those knights that Shawn Michaels used a couple years ago, but this I would consider to be his first pay-per-view. You can't think of a better person to put him with than Bret Hart. Bret Hart, to me, is in control of this match. You know, he's working pretty hard in this match and working very well. To me, there's no other way to give Yankem a win other than a DQ. Like, the DQ finish had to happen, so I think they booked it well by doing that, rather than having this guy debut, this monster debut, and have Bret beat him. I like that they did a DQ. So I gave it 3 stars. Especially considering it was Jacob's first real match. I'm giving it 3 stars because I think it was average, and I'm not sure where they go from here either. So I kind of thought about that too.
I was pleasantly surprised with how good Glenn Jacobs did in the ring. I, of course, know him from later on as Kane, but this is much earlier in his career, and he still looked good. You have this pushing 7-foot-tall, 300-pounder who moves around the ring with grace and speed and worked with one of the best in the game and made it look really entertaining. And really, the whole story with Lawler is the only thing that, kind of starts to bring the match down. There was the point that was pretty impressive where most of the time when you have a guy like a 300-pounder in the ring, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 spots where we go into that catch your breath move, like an abdominal stretch or a chokehold. Yeah. There was none of that. I mean, they were pretty much going at it the entire time, and Isaac was keeping up with him. He even jumps off the top rope at one point with a pretty decent looking leg drop, Sadly, though, I'm not with you, Joe, on the way it ended. I understand what you mean, that like you kind of feel you can't just squash this giant and have him get pinned, but I just really hated the ending being another ending with Jerry Lawler interrupting it. It just seems like it's the same old story, and for me, it took what I thought was a 3-star match down to a 2-star match.
Well, your rating agrees with Meltzer. He said that he gave it 2 stars. He said that Yankem was just too plodding and not aggressive enough, and his size alone does not cut it. The match was pretty bad at the start, but picked up due to Bret Hart's offense and intensity being great.
Well, I completely disagree with all of that. Meltzer can go fuck himself.
Yeah, I really don't agree with his review of that, but...
So the one thing that I have to throw in here, and I know we're getting a little pinched on time, but the one thing I want to get your opinions on is, Joe, you laid it out earlier the way that you were thinking about this ending. So why couldn't Yankem just beat Bret? I know that would require an ongoing story.
Because it's Bret Hart.
Yeah, but you know what? He lost to Yokozuna to then lose to Hulk Hogan in the span of 15 minutes 2 years ago. I mean, I'm not saying that he deserved that or anything, but I don't know. Bret Hart is enough of a professional to build an ongoing story that could have then evolved into a natural feud between Yankem and Hart that got the King kind of out of the picture. I don't know. Anyway, that was just my thought on it. If we really wanted to take this seriously, we could have had Yankem win. I think the only reason that this ended in a disqualification is because everybody in the booking knew that this was going nowhere. This was a throwaway match. Well, that being said, backstage, Doc Hendricks is with Razor Ramon now. Doc is asking Razor Ramon about the upcoming ladder match, and this was a great interview promo getting us ready for this match once again. I do wonder who that was that walked through the interview muttering and acting weird.
It was Bret Hart. It was Bret Hart because he just came back from, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was not able to see that at all. Thank you, Joe, for pointing that out, because I had no idea. I also loved the timing of this interview. It was so fucking cool. Ending the interview and then the camera following Razor out into his entrance for the next match. Fucking awesome production there. And as I said, this goes into our next match. Shawn Michaels defeats Razor Ramon in a ladder match to retain the WWF Intercontinental Championship in 24 minutes and 58 seconds. Shawn climbing up and over the ladder in his entrance was a great touch. The ladies of Pittsburgh do love Shawn Michaels, but that was a fantastic way to enter the ring, as well as Razor, too. It did not look like that belt was secured to that loop well enough at the beginning.
No, that ref was having some real issues attaching it.
Yeah, there was some kind of something going on with the belt. It was awful goddamn high up there. I don't know if it was on purpose for the storytelling or what, but it did kick us off into the match as the two men met face to face in the center of the ring underneath the belt. The rope work into the missed sweet chin music at the start, immaculate. The storytelling was immediately present and engaging, one attempting to outclass the other, each missing their finishers early and gesturing like, hey, I had to try, afterwards. Razor giving Shawn a back body drop off the apron was rough as hell. Michaels cracked his ankle off the barrier, and it looked painful as hell. Again here, both competitors miss their finishers and go down with dueling clotheslines. That was another just little piece of poetry. The sight of Psycho Sid backstage watching the match was an unwelcome one because I was really, again, hoping for a clean match here. Thankfully, we didn't see Psycho Sid again the rest of the night. There's another rough spot. After Shawn is climbing the ladder in the ring, Razor pulls Shawn's pants down and then topples the ladder, Shawn's knee getting caught in the rungs as it goes down. They do a great job of working with that. Razor putting that knee in the ladder and kicking it, and Doc Hendricks brings up a great point about Shawn not being able to hit the super kick with a bad knee. That's fantastic storytelling from commentary. That is the right kind of commentary that we need. At the point where Razor is smashing Michaels' knee off the ring post, though, this is where I personally felt they were milking the knee angle a little bit too long. And even when Shawn tries to mount a comeback, they go back to the knee. But finally, the ladder does get set up, and when we move to working with it, the moves can move back to being powerful and impressive, like Michaels delivering Razor to the canvas with a back body drop from about halfway up the ladder. That looked fantastic. Michaels hitting a sunset flip from the ladder in the corner looked good, and so did the splash from the top of the ladder that Razor reverses. More great work. The spot where both competitors were at the top of the ladder and come down with Razor to the outside, and Michaels getting crotched on the ropes, felt kind of forced, like they were really preparing and setting up for it. They almost telegraphed it for me. But I did like the almost suicide dive-like move that it was immediately after that, though, using the ladder. It was just a clusterfuck of brutality. It was amazing to watch. I also liked the Razor's edge from the ladder. But the introduction of the standby ladder was kind of meh for me. That didn't add anything to this match. And especially when Vince wondered out loud which ladder was the legal ladder, it was just like, all right, come on. That's just that's enough. You're obviously just trying at this point to top the original ladder match. How about we just have an honest match as opposed to, the sequel?
There was a backstage stipulation in this one. Nothing to do with the ladders, really, but Vince told these two guys, hey, you can't use the ladder as a weapon very much because they're getting on us about violence.
Oh.
So,
okay.
I don't know if you guys noticed that, but they didn't really use it as a weapon very much in this match like they did the first one.
Yeah. Well, as much as I didn't want them to stand both ladders up next to each other, and as much as the moves were, again, a little telegraphed, I did remain engaged in this. Even when Vince calls the false finish, when Michaels can't get the belt off the hanger and Michaels falls off the ladder. I don't know if that was part of the storytelling in the ring. I'm kayfabed on that one, I guess. You marked me. whatever I don't know if that was real or not or what the fuck ever, but it was great to see Michaels fumble the belt and fall off the ladder and then go back for it. All in all, this was a great match. And this is the kind of thing I think of when I think pay-per-view spectacle. That's why I feel so many of my star ratings in pay-per-view matches tend towards the low side. Because whenever I'm watching a pay-per-view, I expect a pay-per-view match. And this fits the bill. They tried to remake the wheel by having this sequel to the ladder match. And it didn't fall too far from the original mark, in my opinion. I'm going to give this match a solid 3 stars. And say that now that we've seen both, I think the first ladder match was the better of the two. Now, Ryan, where did you end up with your star rating? And now that you've seen both, which ladder match for you is the better of the two? Same question for Joe when it's Joe's turn.
Just to start it off, I believe we gave the original one a 5-star, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were all unanimously a 5-star on that one, but I'm just going to start with that. You could really tell when they both come out, just the reaction both of these people get, man. They are way over, both of these guys. The fans just fucking love it. There was just a lot of great stuff here. These are two really, really great wrestlers at the top of their game in a sequel to one of the best matches in probably the last decade.
Yeah.
And they do a very good job of almost living up to it. There's a lot of really good looking moves off of the ladder. And Joe, you said, they were told not to use the ladder all that much in this match. But I do think that Razor especially did a pretty good job of incorporating it to try and take out Shawn Michaels' legs. And I do have to point out the spot where that started. The ladder starts to fall. And again, just Shawn Michaels, if you watch him, in midair, he wraps his foot into that rung of the ladder to get it caught up in there. I don't know how the guy's able to think like that. Just, as he's falling, he's able to fucking do that. And then right from there, Razor just starts to go to work on that leg. Great storytelling there. Then I completely agree. The introduction of the alternative ladder was kind of what brought it down just a little bit. One of the things that did that was they got up to the top and it looked like they wanted Shawn Michaels to hit the sweet chin music from the top of the ladder, but it didn't really land and they both just kind of fell. Then he tried to get the belt and it doesn't come off and he falls. And I don't think that was kayfabe at all. I think that was just, it didn't come off because Razor was just kind of standing on the outside of the ring, kind of wasting time a little more for him to get the ladder back up. And mostly because of the 2 little hiccups at the end there, I thought brought it down from that 5-star match that we saw from before to a 4-star match.
Well, I was highly impressed with this match. I gave it 5 stars, just like the first one. There were a couple hiccups, like you mentioned, the ending with the couple botches there, and the beginning too, with whatever the hell was going on with getting that belt up there. Let me say this. I do think the first match was better, but if somebody said this one was better, I would not tell them they're wrong. And I have to say, for me, the reason why I think the first one was better is obviously because it was the first, but also Pittsburgh, I love you, but the first one, that crowd at the Garden, just really stepped that one up for me. Not that this crowd wasn't good, but that Garden crowd was just on fire, and that was WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me, that's where I stand. But this match to me was just awesome. I told myself if I gave it anything less than 5, I'm just being picky. So I went with 5.
I wanted to give it 5, but it was just saying it wasn't quite as good.
Yeah.
And, 5-star matches are something special. So I ended up with a 4, but I agree. Great match.
It's tough because you can't help not comparing it to the first one rather than just looking at it as a standalone match in this event. That's
the problem with the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this kind of match is what's going to move up the thumbs up ratings. Dave Meltzer gave it 4 3/4, and he says that you can't say enough for how well Shawn Michaels sold the knee. So he was really into that. And Meltzer just goes on and on. I'm not going to read it, but he just goes on and on about Shawn Michaels and just what an amazing in-ring performer he is during this time.
Gushing.
He's not wrong at all. All right. Well, we've got our opinions and we've got Meltzer's opinion, but let's go to Dean Douglas with his opinion, his critique on this. Once again, this is terrible, and once again, it doesn't feel like Dean Douglas knows what he's doing here. And I hate saying that. I really do, because I love Shane Douglas. But this, terrible. Absolutely terrible. It was nice seeing Razor barge in on him, and my God, Razor ends up lighting him the fuck up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that looked real as hell.
That alone made this the best Dean Douglas report ever.
Yeah.
That reminded me of every single shoot interview that I've ever viewed with Shane Douglas bitching about the Click putting him down and burying him. That was Scott Hall walking into a room and just fucking putting a man to the ground with one swipe.
That looked like when Stossel got fucking back.
Yes. So that was good. That was a good way to end this whole Dean Douglas thing in this pay-per-view. I really wish that we could have ended the pay-per-view here, but that's going to take us into our main event. Diesel defeats King Mabel with Sir Mo by pinfall to retain the World Wrestling Federation Championship in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. My immediate first thought is I can't help but wonder who thought it was a good idea to have this match follow a damn near half-hour long ladder match between two of the best the business has ever seen. We all know Pittsburgh crowds and how they behave at concerts, at least. I'm surprised that half of these people didn't fucking leave and just ignore the encore. We get to a point in the beginning of this, I'm pretty sure Doc Hendricks, and this is at this point in my notes, so this changes later on, but I'm pretty sure Doc Hendricks says that Luger is in the building. Vince didn't really like him bringing that up, and I hope it isn't true. Wink, wink. Petting Zoo is backstage interviewing Diesel. Once again, a terrible promo from Diesel. And again, he mows it. He mows it. He tries so hard, but we get that same problem from Diesel. He just looks like he does not take any of it seriously at all. Vince claims that the crowd loves it when Diesel comes out. And maybe they do, but I'm telling you right now, the crowd popped harder for The Undertaker, for Bret Hart, for Razor Ramon, and for Shawn Michaels than they did for Diesel. And that tells you everything you need to know about why the championship is just not where it should be. Once again, much like Diesel's matches with Sid, this is something that just dawned on me while I was watching this. We might have talked about it before, but having two big monsters in the ring together just makes both of them look not special. The thing about a monster is that he is bigger than his opponent, and in this case, yes, Mabel is fatter, but they're almost eye to eye, and this made this match not special at all. Diesel went over the top rope to splash Mabel on the outside. He barely made it over the top rope. That was not impressive to me. That was not an impressive spot at all. The spot where Mabel dropped on Diesel's back looked really shaky. Oh, especially coming from somebody that has a known habit of dangerous work. And I want to say that I heard some shoot interviews from Kevin Nash talking about that. I'm pretty sure Mabel fucked that up. I'm not positive, though. Don't quote me on that. But the way that they sent the referee out of the ring was just really clumsy and sloppy. In the end, Luger does come out. Luger comes out to save Diesel, but Diesel hits Luger and sends Luger out of the ring too. This is whenever he was kind of cleaning up, but he was also, I guess you could say, punch drunk. He was just swinging at everybody, and he hits Luger and sends him out of the ring, as well as Sir Mo and Mabel. I felt that this was the perfect representation of the totality of Luger's career here in the WWF. Even his run-in is botched and poorly executed. It's a synonym for his entire career here, this whole run. And when we got to the finish, it didn't feel any different than any other spot in this match. Whenever I have a finish on a pay-per-view, I want the fucking building blowing up, and this just wasn't it. The pay-per-view fades to black on the gallop of Roseanne with Diesel celebrating his win. It is no surprise to me that this match was the drizzling shits. We expected it, and we got it. I was hoping to get maybe just a little bit of a better match than the Diesel versus Sid matches, but alas, all we got was just a different flavor of shit. Pains me to once again give the main event title match of a pay-per-view a dud rating, but here we are. Joe, please, what did you think of this?
Yeah, this match had no chance at all. Really
No
should
chance.
not have been. Yeah. It should not have been booked last. It should not have followed that other match.
It should have followed the 1-2-3 Kid Hakushi match.
Yeah. This is probably the worst main event that we've seen, I think, since we started in 93 here. I don't know. I mean, this is...
It's a strong contender for that.
Yeah.
Sitting on Diesel's back, like, what would make anyone think that's a good idea? I mean... He should have been fired after doing that. And then it looked like he was giving him like a neck massage right after. And I have a feeling Kevin Nash was probably flipping out and he was trying to like kill time or something. I don't know, but man, that was bad. And it's a dud for me. And it had to end horribly too with Earl Hebner giving that slow count. I'm just like, God, will you just finish the 3 count?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start out. A fucking dud. No surprise there. Diesel's promo, just, man. And then he ends it with, I'm going to go medieval, and it's like, okay, Pulp Fiction came out less than a year ago, so that line was popular still, I guess, at that point. But he doesn't deliver it well. Mabel, man. He starts out with a very poor-looking shoulder block. And I was a little bit shocked after that, though. I don't know if either of you caught this. Mabel then screams to the hard camera, I'm going to be the first black champion.
Yeah, I heard him say that.
I thought about that, and I said, that can't be right. So I went and looked it up, and sure enough, the first black champion is not until The Rock. That's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Ron Simmons won the WCW, yeah. Like a year before this or something.
Right, but WWF belt, The Rock is the first black champ. So
yeah.
I don't know why I thought Ahmed Johnson was. I mean, I'm obviously wrong, but geez.
Maybe IC, maybe.
Yeah, maybe IC. But yeah, I was shocked by that. But that does not excuse Mabel's extremely slow and poor-looking chops that he gives to Diesel in the corner.
Yeah.
Just everything about this is bad. Diesel then knocks Mabel out of the ring with... He runs at him, and it looks like he almost slows down and comes to a complete stop before he softly hits Mabel in the back, causing him to go out of the ring. Both of you mentioned the sitting on his back while he gives Diesel a neck massage. Just stupid, dumb shit. Mabel splash. Have you seen a splash with less distance than that splash? It was about 6 inches from the corner. Oh, God.
Gravity is not Mabel's friend.
No. I mean, all right, he catches Mabel with a flying clothesline because there's no fucking way he's getting him up into the jackknife. Hey, I guess this is 2 clean victories in a row for Diesel. There's a plus, but slow, boring match, especially for a championship match on a pay-per-view. What a fucking dud.
Yeah, Meltzer's dumbass star rating, he gave it half a star. I don't know why. Because he says these two could not work a match at all inside the ring, but he gives it half a star.
I'm sorry, but I cannot let this go. Neither of you mentioned it. This is our final view of Lex Luger.
Well, see, I wasn't for sure if that was the case or not.
This was why it was such a big deal that he just showed up on Nitro, because him and Vince had like a handshake deal going here.
Oh.
His deal was over, but it was like, well, we'll work something out with you, He's still there, obviously. He did a run-in, but yeah, this is probably it for Luger.
I just thought that was so perfect. Luger does the run in, but Diesel just shoves him the fuck out of the ring too.
Yeah, it makes you think they were probably going to start an angle between him and Diesel then, maybe, you know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I was taking it as that Diesel's just assuming because the British Bulldog turned on him a week ago that Luger's, in the same camp.
Yeah.
That was what I took from it.
Yeah.
Well, once again, a perfect representation of Luger's career. Just what god-awful booking and just poor execution in his inclusion in storylines. But that's it. That is the end of this pay-per-view. Just briefly, guys, Ryan first. Overall, what did you think of SummerSlam 1995?
There were a couple duds tonight, like the final event. But all in all, this was a much better pay-per-view than what we got from the last In Your House and really what we've come accustomed to in 95. This wasn't a highlight pay-per-view, but that last In Your House we said was a 1-star event. And as far as I'm concerned, I gave a lot of 3 stars out tonight, like I gave a lot of 1 stars out in that In Your House. So this was a mediocre or better than mediocre 3-star event.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a thumbs down event for me, if not for that ladder match. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of what flipped the thumb for me. So, those are my thoughts. The ladder match, to me, it was much better than I remembered it. I don't remember that one as much as I did the first one, and it was nice to watch that.
Yeah, I'm mostly agreeing with you guys on this one. This, to me, is a upward trend. We are slowly getting better with pay-per-views. Plenty of things to bitch about, for me, personally, at least, in this pay-per-view. But overall, this is progressively getting better, so it makes me more hopeful for the end of 1995. It's good that we're getting the fuck out of 1995.
Yeah, nothing fantastic, but a solid pay-per-view.
Yeah, things are getting better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So all of that being said, Joseph, do you have any additional wrestling news from on and around August 27th, 1995 for us?
Well, I'll start with the Observer reviews for you guys on SummerSlam 95. So out of 210 votes, only 1 thumbs down vote for this event.
Wow.
89% thumbs up. That is the highest thumbs up ranking for a pay-per-view that we've seen since we started this podcast.
Yeah, that's
wow.
pretty good.
10% in the middle. Now, the best match was obviously the ladder match between Michaels and Ramon. Can you guess the worst match selection?
Bertha Faye, Alundra Blaze.
Main event.
Bertha Faye and Alundra Blaze with 82 votes. Diesel and Mabel with 61 came in second.
Okay.
They're both bad, but...
Yes.
The 2 championship matches.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. One thing worth noting, after the main event was over, Gorilla Monsoon came out to the live crowd and announced the next In Your House event will take place on September 24th and will be headlined by Owen Hart and Yokozuna versus Shawn Michaels and Diesel in a tag team match. He also added the stipulation that if Owen or Yokozuna score a pin, they get the singles title of the guy they pin.
What?
So that's what we have to look forward to for In Your House. So if Owen Hart pins Diesel, he wins the world title. Just as an example. So pretty crazy there.
All right.
And one more thing here. Do you guys remember when they mentioned that Vince McMahon was going to be on an AOL chat room?
Yeah, at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Well, apparently fans were disappointed and said that Vince was a total dickhead during that entire chat room.
Shocker.
They were pissed at the lack of honesty when answering questions, and he also tried to be funny, which some of them took as talking down to them. So basically, Vince was being Mr. McMahon during the AOL chat.
Are either of you familiar with the Reddit Rampart fiasco?
Yes.
I am not now.
It was just an Ask Me Anything with Woody Harrelson, who clearly had no clue what a Reddit Ask Me Anything was, and it was an absolute disaster.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you, Joseph, for that. It was a great way to end this. It's always good to end a pay-per-view on laughter in 1995. And that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on September 11th, 1995, with matches featuring Psycho Sid, Rad Radford, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.